What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pages from Rock Bottom. I'm Matt.
And I'm Kim, and tonight we are joined with Shadow Arthur, not Arthur. uh, so I do want to let everybody know that viewer discretion is advised. We will be touching on incarceration, relapse, probably talking about fentanyl overdoses, emotional rock bottom. So, listener discretion is advised. So if it's just a trigger warning, guys, just, tread lightly. If you're triggered very easily, this may not be for you. So, Shadow, tell us about yourself, who you are, and where you're from.
I'm Shadow Arthur. I am 33 years old. I have four children and a wife as well. I'm originally from Marion, Ohio, which is in the northern part of Ohio, not too far up north, but right above Columbus,
Yeah,
Delaware. Um, and I currently live in New Boston, Ohio.
New Boston.
So I relocated down here for treatment. Tried to go back several times to my hometown, just never worked out, and eventually I just made a decision to stay.
Okay. There's
Yep.
a good recovery community down in, Scioto area, though. It's
Yeah.
huge.
That's.
It's massive.
Yep. Yep. For sure.
Massive. You want to start?
Are we going to read it up there, or are we just going to share any questions?
No, we gonna dive right into it. All right, so we just want to thank you for being here and sharing your story. First off, like everybody that comes on, we appreciate everybody because it helps somebody, right? We've had so many people and we've had such positive feedback from this, and we know that your story is probably, well, not probably, is going to touch somebody too. So
Absolutely.
you said your addiction started around the age of 13. What did that look at like for you at such a young age?
So I grew up in a family where alcohol was very prominent. Um, I went to Marysville High School for a little while. I would say kind of like a farm school. So a lot of people like to party there too. But my mother and my father they both drank. So as I got older, probably, well, too young to be drinking for sure. But
Yeah.
as I got older, it was present throughout most of my life as far as I can remember. And so that's really what it started with was alcohol. And like most people, I can remember when I drank for the first time. I was sitting on a four wheeler. We had a bonfire, a bunch of people over.
Yep.
Um, and my parents were there. They were drinking, and they I learned at a young age when they got past a certain point of intoxication, I could manipulate and do
Oh,
things.
yeah.
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 So maybe the first few things I got away with was like some chewing tobacco or smoking a cigarette or something like that. But eventually that led into me being able to drink. And it's not like I said, "Hey mom, can I have a beer or anything?" I always hung out with older people, and they were drinking as well. Just the people who lived in that area at the time that I rode four wheelers with, hunted with, things like that. And I had watched them drink, and of course my parents. And I remember sitting on the back of the four wheeler. I walked over to where they had the beer. I grabbed one and I started drinking.
Yes.
And my mom looked at me like, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean? And I was just like, I can't remember exactly what I said, but basically, her judgment was past the point of saying anything. She's just like shaking her head, because it's not like I don't know that I was a normal kid by any means, but and they knew that probably some of my behaviors weren't in alignment with with other people's, but probably just a young addict before it was exposed. But I just kind of shrugged it off and continued to drink, and I ended up with a buzz, and I liked it.
Oof.
So at this time, like 13 years old, is there anything you were trying to escape from or cope with?
I mean, I'll be honest. My home life wasn't always the greatest, just because there was alcohol present, and I'm sure that everybody who's been around alcohol can probably identify with some of the things that goes on when alcohol is present in a home. Not to say that my parents were bad people or anything. They were intoxicated. They did things that people who were intoxicated do. Um, so I've always been like a heftier kid, big boned. And so, kids aren't always the nicest.
Yeah.
They say things to you and, things like that. I'm not necessarily saying I was looking to escape any of that. However, for me to say that didn't like play on my self-esteem or something like that, you know what I mean? That would be a lie. Um, but honestly, like I think that like it was just like attractive to me because all the people around me were doing that as well. So
Yeah.
probably a little bit of escape, more trying to fit in.
Oh, that's what I was getting ready to say. I know when I started, it was more like fitting in because everybody else was doing it too. You know what I mean?
Well, my hometown is Salina, and like there's nothing to do in Salina, dude. You know what I mean? So on
Yeah.
the weekends, like all everybody did was party. You know what I mean?
Right.
We
Yeah.
go to someone's house or we going to a barn. That's what high school was. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
For sure. Yep. That's pretty much same thing. And on the my dad used to say I only drink in days that end in Y, you know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
that's pretty true. Like I can remember, my dad coming home, that's what he did. He drank. My mom, she was a nurse. She was more like a weekend drinker, but when she did drink, she drank in excess, of course. Um, but that's what everybody did. And like I said, I hung out with the older people, and they had already took that dive into partying and stuff like that. So.
Mm. So about what time did you start like marijuana? Did you smoke marijuana?
Yeah, shortly after that, I once again I remember it. One of my sorry, my son is going nuts. Hold on, brother.
It's okay.
He has a cat and he's just dad. But so one of the people who lived across the field from us, they had a bunch of their dad did like maintenance work on cars, so they had a bunch of old cars out in their out in their field and stuff like that. Me and probably 3 or 4 of my friends packed up in one of the old cars that was out there, didn't even run, nothing like that. They had some weed, lit it up, and if I'd done that several times and just sat there and they kind of passed around me. And I remember taking a hit that first time, and I was like, man, it totally it changed me for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I love Kit Kat.
what happened?
Oh,
My thing just went poof. So you started smoking weed with your friends. At what age was it that you realized that you were getting a little bit more into using than you should be?
Um,
That was-
not too long after, my first use, I played football. I was great at football. I remember going to practices 2 days in the summer, extremely hot, hungover from partying. I played baseball as well during the summer. I remember going to, baseball practices, hungover. And it didn't take me long to realize that I liked alcohol and drugs, probably more than I liked sports at those times, because I spent a lot of it went from those things being my main focus, baseball practice, football practice, making sure I had good grades so I could be eligible to play, to
Yeah.
hey, where are we going to party at?
Oh, yeah. Those things just went out the window real quick, didn't they?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, because I remember like back in the day, it was just so normal for your parents to drink and them using drugs and stuff. That shit was just normal. Addiction wasn't even a thing back when I was a kid. It was just, you know what I mean? And like, it's not even something that, you think about. Like, you weren't taught it, that's for sure. So
Right.
it, it's just crazy just thinking, back on, when I first started, like, nobody was like, hey, you're going to get addicted to that. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
There was no addiction. It was just partying.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know the guy who, and I seen this at such a young age. You know, the guy pissing himself because he passed out drunk.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell. I didn't know what the hell that was. I just thought, you know, dude had too much to drink, and
Yeah.
that was normal. You know.
Yeah. You know, they used to they have big old parties, like you said, back in fields and bonfires and different things like that. And you remember like those old pole barn parties where they would have like the banjos and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like,
Well, we didn't have no banjos up north.
well, they did down here. They did down here. They
Country
did
music
down
for
here.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where drinking, like, and you know, all the little side drugs and you know, doing all that stuff would be.
So
Yeah.
how old were you when things really started to escalate?
Well, I was, like I said, I wasn't always the best kid. I got prescribed to prescription pills that, you know, kids to these days still get prescribed to, such as Adderall and stuff like that. In high school, I knew that if I took a bunch of pills, like Adderall, I would be able to get my work done. And so, you know, I experimented with that pretty heavily, and I had my own prescription. So, you know, I remember grabbing the prescription and taking more than I was supposed to. I remember emptying out the Adderall beads and replacing them with cake sprinkles, so that my mom wouldn't know that you know, the medicine was going out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, a 13, 14-year-old kid thinking that far into it, like, hey, I'm going to replace this. So
Yeah.
it still looks like, you know, it's there. But one of my friends, his mom was prescribed Opanas,
Oh yes.
and
I remember those.
you know, those are like gold, and we didn't even know. And he would get in her safe and take those, and he would literally get on the bus and just hand them out to us.
Shit.
And you know, that's pretty dangerous thinking back on it. You know, a 13, 14-year-old kid with, you know, access to a drug like Opana, that could have been tragic. Luckily, nothing ever happened.
Yeah, especially
but
getting on a bus and handing them out. Like,
yeah,
here,
and
you know.
yeah, they have a street value and everything. He's just like, here,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They handed them out, and just the tiniest bit of that will have you completely out of your mind. You know, so
Yeah.
I would say that my addiction progressed pretty fast. And like I said, I always hung out with older kids. So, you know, they had already ventured further into this than I. So I had access to drugs that I, you know, shouldn't have, of course, at a pretty early age. But I would say by the time I was, I don't know, 14, 15, I was drinking on a pretty regular basis, experimenting with LSD, ecstasy, Adderall, pretty much anything, mushrooms. I mean, anything that you can name that came my way. I wasn't one to turn it down.
So did you end up finishing school, or did you?
I did not. I do have a GED, because at the age of 16, I was drunk. And again, you know, I'm not proud of these moments, but this is where, you know, addiction took me, and the things I did when I was intoxicated. You know, we would drink, and we would go out, and we would rob people. And so at the age of 16, I injured a guy very seriously. I hit him with a chunk of asphalt, took his money, and I was incarcerated from the time I was 16 until I was about 18 and a half. So I ended up getting my GED while I was incarcerated.
I know a lot of people that when they go to prison, that's what they spend their time doing when they go to jail or in prison, and they get their GED. Some people go to college.
Right, yeah, they gave me a sentence of 2.5 years to juvie life, which is 21.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way I'm going back to school when I get out of here, you know?
Yeah.
So they gave me the opportunity to do my GED. Before I got sent off to DYS, I actually had my GED before I even went there. I was locked up in Central Ohio Youth Center, which is located in Marysville, Ohio. I went to the GED classes there, and I was able to obtain that before I left. And actually that, you know, kind of worked in my favor when it came time for sentencing.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to DYS when I was 15, I think.
Yeah.
And I went to the one in Delaware, and it was like a mini like a boot camp. They had
Right.
cottages and stuff. I remember
Yeah.
that. That
It
was,
is insane.
yeah, I would have never thought about that until you said DYS, that you went to DYS. That's crazy.
So over your life, you spent years in and out of jail, prison, treatment.
Yep. Yep.
Looking back, what patterns do you see in that cycle?
I was talking with somebody earlier. I have never been to jail when I wasn't using or intoxicated on alcohol.
Ooh,
You know, I mean, it was either linked to drugs or alcohol in one way, shape, or form.
yeah,
So
same. Drinking or or drugs, something.
yeah, and you know, I went to jail for the first time when I was 13 for driving without a license. I stole my mom's car while she was asleep. Took one of my older friends in town. Got pulled over. And you know, once I went to jail, that removed the fear of going.
Right.
So after that, I could care less. What? Oh, you're gonna put me in jail? Like, you know, it was nothing. So
Yeah. So, at what age did you start using meth and fentanyl?
so I actually tried. It wasn't fentanyl. It was real heroin back then. At the age of 16, before I ended up incarcerated, one of my friends, they had some black tar heroin. I lived in Marysville at the time. We would go to Columbus and deal with the Mexicans there. And I tried it for the first time. He had a bag of syringes in his car. He was shooting up. I had, you know, mud puddled heroin a few times,
Yep.
and he was shooting up my room, and I said, you know, I'd like to try it that way. And he was like, man, I don't know if you want to do that. And I'm like, no, I do. And he shot me up.
Mm.
So luckily, you know, it sounds crazy. Luckily, I did go to prison, and that gave me kind of a break away from that stuff. And you know, you know, who knows what could happen if I were to continue to use drugs like that from the age of 16 on. So for 2.5 years, I was away from all that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, because that becomes dangerous. You know, I overdosed so many times, so many times. You know what I mean? So like,
That was my goal.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't start off as a goal, but it definitely ends as a goal because you're so miserable and you just feel lost, like you've done lost yourself completely. You know, toward the end of it, it's not even getting high anymore. It's more of a, you know, job and survival.
Right, and I didn't find out that till later because, you know, it's not like I got strung out when I was 16 or, you know, anything like that. I tried it a few times, which is kind of odd for, you know, the drug that it is, but you know, thankfully I didn't experience that, but I sure experienced it later on in life.
So you said you got out 18 and a half, right?
Yep.
Did you jump right back into using, or did you get a little time?
So I'd been back and forth between Marion and Marysville my whole life. I actually, part of my sentencing was that I was not allowed back in Union County. So my mom had moved to Marion, on the west side of Marion, and when I got out, I went home with her. And you know, it didn't take me. I had actually met some people when I was incarcerated from Marion, you know, that I didn't know previously, and they just happened to live in the same neighborhood I went home to. And you know, so I immediately jumped right in with them. I didn't take right back off with heroin. Drinking for sure. I was on probation, so at that time, like, you know, I don't know how earlier, you know, if when you guys were on probation, but at one point in time, they didn't really test for alcohol and, you know, things like that. So I had knowledge of what they did and didn't test for. And so I picked up with alcohol. And actually, the last 9 months of my sentence, I was incarcerated in a place called North Central Ohio Rehabilitation Center. It's kind of like a STAR type thing for juveniles. And on one of my passes, one of my friends, he introduced me to K2. And So I would go home on my passes and I would smoke K2 with them. And I remember the first time I did that, he was like, "Bro, I'm on felony probation," because he was an adult, and so was I at the time, but I was just incarcerated in a juvenile facility. And he was like, I'm on parole, bro, and I smoke this shit all the time. And I remember right before I tried it for the first time, I said, "Dude, listen, I have juvie life over my head, which is to the age of 21. If I smoke this shit and I go back and fail, I am going back. I'm going to go to prison." You know what I mean? And
Yeah, there's no pass and go.
yeah, he was like, "Nope, you'll be fine." And that's a lot of faith to have in somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm just like, okay. And I did it. I went back. I peed in the cup. Everything was fine, and it was on from there. It was Air Duster and K2 on my passes.
Oh yeah. Yep. I know some people who wrecked, coming I think it was back from Portsmouth one time and on Air Duster and stuff. So I never did really do it.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I had a buddy who ran straight through the middle of a coffee shop.
Mm.
Passed the fuck out.
Yep.
They're saying there's a bad echo when I talk. I turned my volume down a little bit. Maybe that'll help.
Oh. We don't hear it on our end.
Yeah,
I think
it's actually my mom. She's probably finding a lot of shit she don't know right now.
Yeah.
She's like, "You're doing what in my apartment?"
Did you ever believe you would actually survive the lifestyle?
Well, dude, to be honest with you, after all that and being incarcerated at such a young age and all the shit that I had put myself through and been through, I just adopted the belief of like, hey, I don't give a fuck. This is the life that I'm destined to live. This is how I'll die, and I was perfectly content with that. So and I didn't learn about addiction until a few years later, and like what was actually going on with me. And I eventually did jump back into using heroin and stuff like that, which brought it a whole nother level. And I did experience the dope sickness and the shit like that. And
Yeah.
but fresh out of doing 2.5 years, I just adopted the belief of like, hey, I don't care. This is just who I am. This is the hands I was dealt, and this is how I was just fine with being the way I was, man.
Man, I remember the first time I got sick, I thought I had the flu.
Same.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on with me. Like what,
My dude was like, "You don't have the flu, man. Come over."
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
sick. You just need to come see me. See me.
As soon as you get that, as soon as you get it in you, you're back to normal.
Yeah. Back to being you.
So
Well, you think being you.
for me, the first time I went to a detox, I was 17. Because in the state of Ohio, if you're not over the age of 18, they will not send you to an actual treatment facility. So, I mean, I kind of was, but I had to say I was suicidal when they put me in a detox. And I think that's kind of when it started for me. Like, I would use other people that I was surrounded with to justify, like, I'm not that bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, my first trip out to San Diego, I think I was 18, 19. And, like, I was in there with guys that were like, shit, Pat, he was from Boston, man. He was like 74 years old. And I'm hearing all these guys tell their stories, and I'm like, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
But at that time, I didn't know I'm not that bad yet. You know
Right.
what I mean?
And I justified the same way, even though I had used the needle prior, when I first got out, I was only drinking and smoking K2. So you guys who shoot up are fucking idiots, and you're throwing your life away.
Like
you guys are dumbasses.
Yeah, never doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would never do that. Blah blah.
Yeah.
I've never been homeless, and that's only because the fucking state of Ohio gave me some place to live. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah, for sure.
that stuff. I ate my words. That was yet to come. So.
Yeah, true. You said in 2017 that you lost a close friend to addiction. That loss led you to treatment. How did that affect you?
Yeah. So there's two major people in my life that I've lost, and I used to brag like, hey, I've never lost anybody, close to me to addiction, blah blah blah. There's a dude named Sean Jones from Marysville. He passed away from this disease. And that's at the time that fentanyl was like starting to boom in my area. They had the blue drop heroin, shit like that was all over the news. So he died and shortly I had just got out of prison, and
Oh.
I was in North Central prison, and I was getting high and drinking in there the whole time. And I'd had a kid in between, when I got out of DYS, and before I went to
Yeah.
prison the first time, which she's 13 now, and I, because of my addiction, I was never present in her life. You know what I mean?
Right.
I knew who she was, and she, I'm sure, knew who I was, but I wasn't a father by any means. Um, Hold on. What, son? No, hold on, I'm busy. Tell your mom. Jeez.
Open the door.
Yeah. So, I forget. Yeah. So I got out of prison, and he was found in his apartment dead, and that really fucked with me bad, because that was one of my best friends, and that was probably like the eye-opening moment, like, dude, you got to fucking do something different. Like, and
Yeah.
it's shitty because I had been homeless previous to that, obviously incarceration. I had a child that I wasn't able to take care of,
Yeah.
all those things, and but like that's a little bit different, you know what I'm saying? Especially when you're
Yeah.
really close to them.
Yeah.
And when you're close to somebody and they die, and you no longer have access to them, it really hits home of like how real it is. And at that time, like I said, I'm not sure when it happened, but things were switching from actual heroin to fentanyl, and a lot of people that I knew were overdosing. I had seen a lot of
Yeah.
overdoses. I had brought people back from a lot of overdoses. I had overdosed myself.
Same.
So that was really the first time where I, like, where you had said earlier, hey, this is not fun anymore. This is a
Yeah.
job. This is and I had also started doing methamphetamines at that time. Prior to prison, I had never touched methamphetamines. I was in prison with all these people from Southern Ohio. They had legal assembly, manufacturing methamphetamines, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is this shit? You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
had never seen it.
Yeah.
I guess it just hadn't hit up home, but when I got out, it was there. So,
Yep.
and when you're up twacked out for days on end and you have a fentanyl addiction, you're just, doing dope back to back to back, speedballing. You're
Yeah.
not sleeping. You're not taking any breath. The only time you might be lucky enough to get a good one and not out when you're
Yeah.
starting out, or what, you know what I mean, or whatever. But, so I'd always been able to hustle up and, rob or steal enough to like support my addiction.
Yeah.
And once I was speedballing meth and heroin, I was not able to keep up, and I was
Oh.
tired.
Yep.
So,
So is that when did you first go to treatment?
shortly after that, I think I used for maybe 3 or 4 more months, and I'd went to treatment, and I came down to Southern Ohio. I remember one of my friends, he told me about this place, the counseling center, right? And
Yep.
he had been there multiple times, and it was full of girls and blah, all the wrong things that, what I mean. But I'd got strung out enough to where I'm like, hey, and actually he overdosed, and we made that phone call together, like,
Uh-huh.
and I ended up going before him because he was arrested. He got pulled over and had a needle in his pocket. So I ended up being like 2 weeks ahead of him going down there. And back then it wasn't like make a phone call and, hey, somebody's on their way to get you right now. It's, hey, you're on a waiting list. Call back, call back, call back, call
Yeah.
back,
Yep. We have a
So I
bed
eventually
open.
did.
Yep.
Yeah, I eventually did end up making it to treatment. And they shipped me clear out to Adams County, which was like a culture shock to me. You know what I mean? I'm like, wow,
Yes.
I didn't even know where I was at.
Bro, I remember when they came and got me from jail, and like when I got south of Dayton, you know what I mean? I started seeing hills and shit. I'm like, is this even
Yeah.
fucking Ohio anymore? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how I felt. And I'm like, the furthest really set. I came down to Portsmouth because my grandpa would go to like trade days in Lucasville, so I came down this way, but never like as far deep as Adams County. And I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, what? And I dressed different from everybody else. I talked different, even though I grew up in the country. I'd moved to the city, and shit had changed. So,
Yeah.
and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I belong here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, was you ever at West Union? Where was you at
Yes,
over
yeah,
there?
yep,
Yeah.
yep, West Union, yep.
Yeah, yeah. I got family over at West Union. It's definitely
Yeah,
different.
and that was I mean it was a sweet treatment stay, but for all the wrong reasons. And I don't know that any of
Yep.
these guys work there anymore, but we pretty much was allowed to do whatever the fuck we wanted to. You know what I'm saying? So I was thankful because I was introduced to 12-step meetings and stuff like that. And that kind of opened my eyes. And I never quit. I didn't say clean that time, but that planted a seed in me that, like, hey, kind of like treatment and basically Portsmouth, Southern Ohio is the gateway to the fuck out of this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was that the first time you truly considered recovery, or did it feel like you were trying to survive?
Yeah, dude, it was totally survival. I was fresh out of prison. One of my good friends had just died. I didn't have custody of my daughter.
Mm.
I didn't have anywhere to go. Mom wrote it out. She's a soldier. She wrote it out, as much as she could, way longer than what she should have. One of the, my mom's done a lot for me. One of the greatest things that she ever did for me was get the fuck out of my house, and I mean it this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So while I was in prison, I was locked up in West Central, which is a CBCF. And she told me during one of the visits, if you go back, I'm done. So I went back. I went back. That was the time I went to prison as an adult. And she did not talk to me the entire time I was in prison until a week before I was about to get out. Um, I would call home. I would talk to my sister. She would be right beside my mom. I would say, "Hey, does mom want to talk to me?" And I would hear her say, "Nope." And I'm like, "Damn, she meant it." She'd made threats like that before, you know what I mean? But this time she actually stuck to it. And I got out on New Year's Eve. So what a great time to get out of prison, you know what I mean?
Right. That's a
And I
great
remember
time to get out
talking.
when everybody's getting drunk.
Yeah. And I remember maybe it was the day before New Year's Eve, something like that. It was right before. So I remember talking to her around Christmas time, and I would ask every time I talked to my sisters, "Mom will talk to me." Every time it'd be nope, nope, nope. She finally got on the phone around Christmas, talked to me, and she said, "I figured I'll get on the phone and talk to you and quit being a bitch." That's it. So, and I said, "Okay, well, I appreciate it." She's like, "How you been doing?" Asked me all the questions, and she said, "Well, what are you going to, you're about to get out in the week. What are you going to do?" I said, "I have no clue." And she said, "Well, where are you going to go?" And I said, "I don't know. I guess I'm just going to figure it out." And she said, "I tell you what, you can come to my house." So that's what I did. And I was high before I left prison. Where I was in North Central. We lived in Marion. My mom lived literally across the street. I could damn near
Yeah.
see her house when I was on the yard. I didn't
Yeah.
have a visit the entire time I was there because my mom was the only person who would ever put up with my shit that long, and she stuck to her word that she was done. Um, but all the people from out of town, they knew I lived across the street. They knew I was gonna. I told them, like, "Yeah, I'm from Marion, blah 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 blah." And so everybody was feeding me drugs the week before I left, because they wanted their homies to be able to meet up with me to be able to
Yep.
throw the pack over the fence.
Yep.
Um, and she lived right across the street. So I ended up going to mom's, started partying again, got put on with some shit, started selling it. Um, I went to the bar with my brother. He got in a fight, got arrested. I came home. Before I left, I'd hid my dope up in the curtain rod. I took enough dope with me to get high, and sell a little bit if anybody wanted anything. I came home. I was drunk. My brother went to jail. One of my friends hit me up. He said, "Hey, I need something." I said, "Okay, hey, I tell you what, you take me home, get me the fuck out of here. If I go to jail, I'll just give it to you." I go home. I was so drunk, I could not remember where I put my shit. I'd flipped her entire house upside down. And I'm not talking like looking under shit. I'm talking flip this place upside down, because I had a pretty significant amount of dope that I was now missing.
Yeah.
And I ended up, like I said, I took some with me. I gave the dude what he wanted. I guess I ended up getting high in the meantime, and The next thing I remember was waking up. I was in my boxers. I was soaking wet. All my money was gone, and her house was flipped upside down. And my mom had woke me up because I'd overdosed. And the
Mm.
first thing when I woke up, first thing I remembered where that fucking dope was. That's the first thing I
Yeah.
remembered.
Isn't that
I was
insane?
like, oh fuck, it's in the curtain rod. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and my mom at that time, she said I had a warrant for my arrest when I got out of prison. They didn't pick me up, and she knew that, and she called a wellness check in on me, and I went to jail that day. And when I came home when I got released, she said, "You're not coming back to my house." I said, "Hey, well, check this out. I get mail there. You're gonna have to evict me. That'll trick." She said, "No, I got a trick for you, motherfucker. I got a restraining order against your ass,
Oh
and you're
shit.
not coming, back here." So that
Oh,
was the first time I was really homeless.
yeah.
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 So best thing she ever did for me. Doesn't seem like it, telling the story, but honestly, the best thing she could have ever done for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
It's my mom enabled me. You know what I mean? Like she was
yeah,
my worst enabler because she always said that at least if you're here or if you ask me for something and I get to lay eyes on you, I know that you're still alive.
right.
My mom was I think it was the day I turned 18. She said, "I can't fucking handle you anymore."
Get
I said,
out.
"Yep. I don't know where you're gonna go. It's not here."
Bye.
Yep. And my aunt, she's like a second mom to me. I'm her baby. I could kill somebody in cold blood, and she'd say, they antagonized him, or whatever. And she let me come to her house, on and off. But eventually she was sick of my shit too, because there was just no stopping me. You couldn't tell me anything. I would stop at nothing. You know what I mean? And except for
Yeah.
if I was arrested, that was the only thing that would slow me down. So.
Mm. So when did you actually hit your rock bottom? Like when did that actually hit for you?
So the thing about rock bottoms is there's levels. So
Yeah.
I could sit there and say, hey, going to prison was a rock bottom, or being
Oh, for
homeless was
sure.
a rock bottom, or hearing my mom cry was a rock bottom.
Mm.
And that would be the truth. All those things were rock bottoms. But I had came down to Portsmouth for treatment. I'd been in and out of treatment a couple different times. I'd lived down here in this area. I had my own apartment and was doing all right. I got with a girl. I ended up letting her talk me into letting my apartment go, moving in with her. My name wasn't on the lease. You know how that goes. If your name ain't on the lease, you got to keep the peace. So
Yeah.
and when I'm using, there's no peaceful version of me.
Yeah.
So eventually she got tired of my shit because I started sneaking around doing methamphetamines behind her back, drinking every day. I worked at the good old pork rind factory, if anybody's hip to that. And I was just a fucking complete maniac. I was spun out of my fucking mind. I was nuts. She was cheating on me every fucking day. So I thought. I remember
Yep.
sitting at the end of her bed, and I would be trying to watch her out of the corner of my eye. She's dead asleep, and I would see her like she was messaging somebody. None of this is real. Like she's
Yeah.
messaging somebody, and
Oh,
I would
he
turn
was
around and
good.
try to catch her, and then boom, she'd be dead asleep, and I'm like, God damn, this bitch is good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I could not catch her for the life of me.
Taking
And
fucking shadows, man. You
Yeah.
just can't
yeah.
ever catch them.
Ever. Ever.
So me and my boy Josiah, that we talked about before this started, we started using together. I got him a job at the pork rind factory. We started using together for a little while, and I was just spun out of my mind. She changed the locks and locked me out. Um, I I get kind of emotional when I talk about this. I wrote that out, and I had different people that I stayed with and shit like that, and I did have my job. I was going nuts, like antagonizing this poor woman, acting like a maniac, and one day I had just finally had enough, and hey, you can beat me up, you can put me in prison, you can take my house away, my food, all that shit. I can escape all that in one way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
one thing that you cannot escape is your own mind.
Ooh.
And
So
the mental rock bottom that I experienced during that, that was the worst. That was the worst rock bottom ever. There was nowhere to hide from that. You know what I mean?
yep.
Um, and this is where my oldest daughter, she saved my life, man. She did. I was walking. I had made a big long crazy post on Facebook. I've been up for a few days, basically threatening that I was going to fucking hurt somebody and myself. A cry for help, basically. But
Yeah.
I was determined that hey, I was just going to end my life that day. You know what I mean? Um, I had been talking to my dad, and he's, what can I do to help you? Blah blah blah. Nothing. My mind's made up. You're gonna see me on the news, type shit. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
because that's just what I was. That's what I was planning to do. And there's nothing anybody that could do to stop me. And I remember I was walking by the 6th Street carryout, and I believe my phone rang, and I ignored it. And I can't remember if it was my mom or my sister, but shortly after that, a voice message came through my phone. I hit
Yep.
play on it, and it was my daughter's voice,
Mm.
and she said, "Daddy, I love you. Please call me." And I don't know that I've said anything to her, since she's a little bit older and can understand, but that stopped me in my tracks from doing what I was about to do. You know what I mean? Even though I had never been a part of my daughter's life throughout my addiction, I'd been in and out of prison, been strung out, whatever it was, worried about women or, whatever it was. It wasn't her. Um, just hearing her sweet little innocent voice saying, Daddy, I love you, call me, stopped me from what I was about to do that day.
Give you a little piece of hope, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would love to say like, hey, I didn't use after that. I didn't go through with my plan. I did continue to use. And I was arrested, I believe a few days later, not too long after that. And then I was let out on an ankle monitor to one of my friend's house, and I had made the decision to go back to treatment. And that was that was the last time I ever went back to treatment. I've been clean ever
Oh,
since then. So
what?
yeah. So
You
Yeah.
said you believed that your only future was to die a drug addict. How heavy was that for you to carry?
Oh,
That
it
belief.
was, and like you said, it was work every day. It was no longer fun, but once I'd had like a taste of like recovery and been clean, and like I said, I had got my own apartment, and I think I had a car, my license, and stuff like that. Um, I that desire to just die like that had left me, but addiction is so strong
It is.
that when I'm using, like it's, and some people may call bullshit or whatever, but it's like I could not help myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once I put a drug in me, I can no longer help myself.
No.
So that's a crazy war to have inside of you. Like you want to be clean. You can be clean. You know the benefits of recovery, but you can't fucking quit using.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes that guilt and shame 10 times heavier, man.
Yeah, for
And there's
sure.
nothing
Yeah,
like battling yourself. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
and yeah,
One
and
person you can't escape.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's the same thing, same principle as like the mental rock bottom. It's like hey, I know that I can do this, and I know that it's like your mind could be thinking one thing, and I could literally sit there like I don't want to use, I don't want to use, I don't want to use, and try to convince myself of that, and it's like my body is on autopilot.
Oh yeah. And then
I
you're
gotta do
using
that.
2 minutes later.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I
yep,
get it. I get it. You know what I mean?
yep,
That's addiction is people just don't understand the power of it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. So
it
like
literally takes over
there's
everything.
literally studies that like and I talked about this because I work in treatment. I talked about this with somebody earlier, like, hey, your basic needs: food, water, shelter,
We talk about
clothing,
that all the
whatever,
time.
all those things.
Yeah.
Gone.
Have you ever got high instead of eating? Yeah. Have you ever got high instead of sleeping? Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
ever lost everything that you had? Choose
Yeah.
to be homeless so you can get high? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not normal thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever not take a shower because you wanted to get high? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And
the
people don't, I don't
things.
think, people understand that. Like you would literally put your basic needs, the things you need to survive over, you'll put drugs using
Yeah.
over those things. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'll figure that shit out later,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Like when I was going through court for my daughter, man. I think maybe I had custody of her 2 months after she was born, and I knew CPS was going to take her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no matter whatever the consequence was, it was never enough to scare me enough not to do it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Fuck the consequences. I'll deal with it when it comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter, she was taken directly from as soon as she was born, addicted, and because her mom used as well,
Yep.
and seeing her, my mom, this probably bring tears to her eyes, and I'm sorry, mom, but this is what it does. My daughter's in there underneath the light. They're trying to get her skin to come the right color, and she's in there withdrawing, and they have to give her morphine. I'm in the bathroom getting high on the same shit she's in there withdrawing from.
Yep.
I think the entire time my daughter was in the NICU, man, I think she was in there for 2 or 3 weeks. They did a methadone taper on her, and
Yeah.
I think maybe the entire time I was there for maybe 8 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back now, it makes me sick, but that was my
Right.
reality.
Yeah.
Like,
And was she at was she at Children's Hospital in Columbus?
They sent her to Dayton.
Oh, okay. So my daughter was in Children's Hospital, and we actually, they let us stay at the Ronald McDonald House.
Oh,
And my
yeah.
brother was able to come there as well, and we would walk to the hood and go get beer and shit and sneak it back in the Ronald McDonald House, and then we had other drugs and shit like that, and we were getting high. And eventually CPS did get involved because she tested positive for substances, and me and this is sucks to say, but me and her mom just took off, and we left up there because I knew that my mom wouldn't leave her, for lack of better terms, and we went back to Marion and continued to get high. And my mom went through the whole thing with CPS, and ended up getting custody of her, and she had custody of her until she was about 9, and I ended up getting her back.
That's awesome. We got her back, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, all my kids live with me now. I started with her, then I had other kids, and my wife has a son that's not biologically mine, but that's my son.
Right.
And so yeah, it's that's why I always tell people, man, like, hey, no matter how far down you've gone, like, this shit is possible, man.
Yeah.
So I never would have thought at any point in time when I was using or even in early recovery that my life would be what it is today,
So
It's hard to imagine anything else.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's what your brain thinks about. You relate literally everything to drugs.
Yeah. That's about the truth. So March 16th of 2020 is such a powerful date for you. What finally clicked that led to that lasting recovery? What finally clicked for you?
So like I said, the thing with my daughter, and then I was arrested shortly after that. I think I got out like Thursday or Friday. I used over the weekend. I went to treatment on a Monday. I went to detox. Even still yet in detox, I was getting high. I was at Breakthrough Recovery at SOMC. You're able to have people come in and see you there. You're actually allowed to have visitors stay the night if you wanted there. You're allowed to have your cell phone. Yeah, it was the sweetest detox there. Not sweet for recovery, but sweet for me at that time.
Hell yeah.
So I'm having people bring me drugs up there. Plus I got the drug, and I wasn't, because they gave me Suboxone and stuff like that. But I was having and I hadn't used fentanyl for a while.
Yeah.
I was on meth at that point or whatever. But and I was still having them bring me up there. So I was getting the drugs that the fucking hospitals gave me. Plus I was having methamphetamines dropped off. And they had to think I was the weirdest dude alive, because I fucking didn't sleep the entire time I was in detox. I'm up at 3 a.m. dragging a fucking IV pole through the hallways, and I continued to use while I was in detox. And they sent me to treatment. I went to Hope Source, and the moment I walked in to Hope Source, I looked down at my arm. I have a scar on my arm, and my bicep is this big. Because I was taking that methamphetamine, and I had an IV in me, and I was putting the methamphetamines into the IV and, flushing it straight through.
Yeah.
So I looked down my arm. I felt it. It was extremely hot. And I told the RA, I said, dude, I think I need to go to the hospital. And he said, you're going to run, aren't you? And I said, no, I'm seriously not, dude. Like, look at my arm. Like,
Yeah.
I think I have some kind of infection. And so they ended up shipping me back to SOMC. I had to get my arm cut open and drained.
Yep.
Again, I'm getting high. They're letting people come visit me. They wasn't. I don't know if they wasn't putting two and two together or what. Like, hey, when this dude gets visitors, he also gets meth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I continued to get high again then. And then, the day I finally went back, dude was like, dude, I didn't think he was coming back to RA. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. I ain't got anywhere to go, bro. Like, you know what I mean? I had a felony indictment coming from when I got arrested. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have anywhere to go. And that's like the time that they announced that they were shutting down the state of Ohio because of COVID. I remember coming back in, and people are literally, they announced they're shutting down the state of Ohio. I forget how long, maybe like a month, or I don't remember how long they shut it down. But people are literally packing their bags like, fuck this, the world's ending, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? And I'm just sitting there like, I ain't got nowhere to go. So
I'm staying, so let's isolate together.
Yep. And I came back and I had ice on me. I went to bed that night, as much as I could sleep. I woke up. I did a shot of ice before I went to group in the morning in Hope Source's bathroom. Sorry if they're watching. But and then I broke my needle. I threw it away, and that's the last time I ever used.
All right, now we're gonna get to the good shit.
Okay.
So you've been in recovery since then. What does recovery look like for you today?
Today, man, it's like I said, it's unimaginable. I have custody of all my children. Not all of them have the same mom. My two youngest kids, my wife is their mom. She's here with us as well. It hasn't always been like that. She's not to put her down or something. I'm extremely proud of her, but she's an addict as well. She's had her own struggles. We were separated for a little while. I was the sole provider, the sole parent, for a while. She was able to maintain, and we did end up coming back together. So, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, a brother, all those things family related. I'm about 80% done with a social work degree, a bachelor's degree in social work. I have a house. I have cars. They have insurance on them. They got gas in them. I'm employable. I get to help other people in recovery. So, like I said, when I was using, man, I could never imagine the life that I have today. And if things were fair, I wouldn't have the life that I have today because I wasn't a very good person.
Same. How do you handle guilt or regret from the past without letting it turn into shame today?
So one of the things I learned from 12-step, step work is there's things called, a living amends. And so basically I know that, the things that I did in my addiction, that's not me. One of my favorite, my sponsor told me early on, one of my favorite definitions of addiction is it's the perversion of your intended identity.
Ooh.
So,
yes.
I grew up a certain way. I was taught certain morals. I was taught certain values. And then addiction stepped in and it totally perverted that. It twisted it and formed me into somebody I was never even intended to be. But I know that as long as I don't get high and I put one foot in front of the other, that none of that other shit matters. That wasn't me. That was me getting high. So, I don't try to dwell on that stuff. I just try to do better every day. I try to be a good person and handle my responsibilities. So, just living the right way is what keeps me from doing that.
So I say it all the time, like one of the most beautiful things about recovery is my darkest moments is the brightest light to other people, right? So for you, what does it mean to carry your past as perspective instead of punishment?
Ooh.
So, like, you know, there's always that question of like, hey, would you go back and change, you know, the way you lived your life? And you know, part of me wants to say, yeah, I would, you know, because like I said, I did a lot of bad shit. But those things and those hard times, you know, now that I've came out on the other end of it, and don't get me wrong, I'm not so naive to think that I couldn't, you know, use later tonight. However, I'd take the preventive measures so I don't do stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Um, you know, I just know that like you said, you know, hey, the struggles that I went through, and I tell this to my daughter because she has some struggles of her own, not substance use related, but behavior issues sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I did all this shit for you. You don't have to do any of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, when you share your story and somebody comes up to you, or if you have somebody in treatment and you run into them at Walmart and they're like, hey man, you really helped change my life. I got 3 years clean now. I got a car, I got my kids back, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Aww.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about a little reflection and growth.
Yeah.
If you could speak to your 13-year-old version of yourself, what would you want him to know?
Man. uh, for one, at 13, I was a little asshole, so I'd say, hey, you're fucking up, bro. You know what I mean? But you know, I would you know, I don't know that I would have the knowledge I do now about addiction. And I went so long without knowing that there was a thing, you know,
Yeah.
such as recovery. And I feel like a lot of people die not knowing that there's a way out. Um,
Mm.
but if I was able to look at my 13-year-old self and I was, you know, using at that time, I would just do my best to steer him clear of that direction.
Mm.
Um, and you know, actually, while I'm saying that, like, you know, this isn't me, but I believe during the Columbine shootings, they asked Charles Manson like a question like, or Marilyn Manson a question like that, and said like, "Hey, what would you say to the kids of Columbine
Yeah.
that did that?" And he said, "I wouldn't
Yeah.
say anything. I would just listen."
Mm.
Mm.
And I think that's really powerful. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people just need to be heard, and you know,
Yeah.
there's a root to the problem. So,
Yeah, for sure.
What has recovery given you that addiction never could?
um, a sense of purpose. Um, I thought that I had a purpose when I was getting high. Like I said, I thought my purpose was to, you know, do drugs, sell drugs, and disclaimer, I wasn't the brick boy or the dope man or anything like that. I just knew how to hustle a little bit and get by, or, you know, sell
You gotta
people
survive,
drywall and
man.
tell them it was
Yeah.
crack, or, you know, whatever it was. You know what I mean? And so it's given me not only that, but it's given me stability in my life. I know that I can wake up every single day and no one's going to be able to take from me what I've earned, except for me. I'm the only person. Um, so it's that me versus me thing. If I
Yeah.
want to fuck this all up, I have the opportunity to do it. It's out there.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
as long as I stay clean and I don't use, nobody's going to take from me what I've earned.
Mm.
Mm. Okay, so the next one on our closing ones for the still struggling addict, for anyone still listening who's out there right now who's listening, who feels hopeless or thinks it's too late, what would you say to them?
I would say that's never too late. If you got breath in you, if you're breathing, you got a chance. You know what I mean?
Mm.
There was times I felt like I was dying. There was times I did die, and they
Yeah.
fucking brought me back, son of a bitches. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And and
Couldn't get
you
any
know, as
madder
long
about
as
that shit. I remember
yeah,
that.
yeah, you're mad. Like, dude, I couldn't even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't use successfully. I can't die successfully. Like, what am I
Yep.
doing?
Yep.
Um,
Can't do nothing right.
Yep.
Nothing.
So, you know, if you have breath in you, you're ahead of the game. You still got a chance. And
Mm.
if you need any help, you can look me up on Facebook.
And there you
I'll be
guys
sure to talk
go.
to you, even if it's somebody to just talk to. If you're on the fence, or you know, think about using, or you need a place to go
Yeah.
for treatment, hit me up, man. I know people. I've been so many places in Ohio, incarcerated, moved, blah. I know people everywhere. So,
Okay.
you know.
Ah,
I gotta ask you before you go, man. How'd you get into jiu-jitsu?
Yeah,
yeah.
my supervisor, she's gonna be mad. She asked me how many times I was gonna reference jujitsu because I'm like literally obsessed with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she'll be disappointed. So her guess was 5. So I guess we still got time. But but so I grew up rough, you know what I mean? Fighting, shit like that. When you go to prison, you know, there's the reputation you gotta uphold. You know, you can't be a bitch. You gotta, you know, and even when you're in the streets, like you put yourself in situations, you know, where you gotta be able to handle yourself, right? And really, man, there's a couple people that I've just followed through the pathway of recovery. I'll just go ahead and mention them: Matt Wisman, Max Lyles. I don't know if anybody knows them, but they've been my mentors, you know, for a long time. And ever since, you know, the second time I was in treatment, I got linked up with those guys. And I basically just this is how I survived. I've just done what the fuck they've done. You know what I mean? And they were working steps, so I wanted to work steps. They was powerlifting, I wanted to power lift. You know what I mean? And Max, he got hooked up with Hoover Combat Athletics out on the west side of Portsmouth. Great people, great gym. And he's like, man, yeah, I do jujitsu. He's like, you like to fight, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I try not to now because it leads to trouble and stuff. He's like, bro, come out here and try it out. Like, you know, they give you a few little trial classes or whatever, and you know, you come out here, and you know, I'm a man in recovery, but I'm not perfect. I actually showed up out there, and I had actually been in a fight not too long before I showed up out there for the first time. I've been training jiu-jitsu for probably like 7 months or so. I had a guy come up on me and swing on me, and you know, I defended myself. And so I show up out there, and my head's already split. And so I just started trying it, man. And I've always liked contact sports. I was really good at football. Addiction, you know, I gave that away for addiction and partying and shit like that. And I just ended up, you know, I ended up liking it, man. And it's kind of like I have an addictive personality. So, you know, anything I like, good or bad, I'm like, I want more of it. So I got linked up with those guys out there. Nate Hoover, he's a great coach. And, you know, I started doing that with them, liked it, started paying for my membership. One day he came to me and he's like, hey, there's a competition next week. You going to compete? And, you know, I've always had like the, hey, fuck it attitude, you know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? I went to my first competition, did pretty well, got a gold medal, silver medal there. And then, you know, my kids are involved in it as well. My wife just started too. So it's a great outlet. Teaches you a lot of discipline. We just competed over the weekend. I got silver, my daughter got silver, and my son got gold. So
That's awesome.
yeah, man, it's just I don't know, it's just something I thoroughly enjoy, you know.
I got a buddy back home. His name's Quinn Stogler. He that's kind of how he beat his addiction, man. Was getting into jiu-jitsu, the discipline, and you know, just everything he gets from it.
Yeah, that's always been a great outlet for me, is like physical stuff, powerlifting, working out, you know, things like that. And you know, I landed at a jiu-jitsu gym, man, and I really like it. So hopefully, you know, I'll continue with it. It's a great way to put yourself in check, because, you know, big guy like me, played football, been to prison, blah, blah, blah. A guy who's 130 pounds will do whatever he wants with you. You know what I'm saying? It's like me playing with my 4-year-old son. The guy with the anime shirt on that's on the mat, you don't want to mess with that guy. The dude with over here, you don't want to mess with that guy. So.
Hell yeah.
Oh man, it's great. It's great. Well, thank you for sharing. Your story was amazing. And I'm sure you helped somebody out there, and thank everybody for watching. You're just living proof that, you know, recovery is possible. You know, we all are, but like you're living proof, like through trials and tribulations and jails and institutions and dying and, you know, all the things that we do recover.
Right.
We can recover.
Right. Yep.
So don't give up. Keep doing what you're doing. Try not to kick somebody's ass too bad.
Yeah.
And I think your mom said she's proud of you, son. Yep. She said that she loves you.
Yep. I love her too. She's a great mother. I put her through a lot. So
Oh.
if and I tell people, hey, if my mother's love could have got me clean, I'd have been clean a long time ago. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, that's
that's
just
for
not how
sure.
it works.
Yep, and
So
it's not.
yeah.
So and anybody out there listening, don't give up. Pull some hope from his story. And I mean, look at all of us realistically. Like I've got almost 8 years. He's got what, 7. And we're still striving. Like and you're still striving. So
Right.
maybe you get into
Yeah.
fighting. No, just joking. Don't do that.
Maybe.
If
Never
you're
know.
doing it for a positive in a positive way, absolutely. But
Right.
find something that works for you. And you said you were passionate about it, you love it, and and he's finding ways to keep himself grounded and focused on his recovery.
Yep. And it doesn't look the same for everybody. So
It,
it,
it doesn't.
you
It
you
does.
find out what you like and enjoy. And that's what it's about. That's what recovery is about, right?
Yep.
You
It's
enjoying
exactly
your
what it's
life, the life that you gave
You
away to use drugs. You get to enjoy it now.
you finally get to figure out who you are and what you like, man.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the things that I thought I liked, during active addiction, those things don't even cross my mind anymore.
Yeah.
So I enjoy shit like being a dad and helping other people and being able to provide for my family, stuff like that.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
I enjoy getting up out of bed and only having to go to my living room to go to work.
yeah, no,
I love
yeah,
it.
you got it made.
So I mean that's an upside to it, but that's somewhere, like, that's what I've worked to get myself to. But it's boring. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
sugarcoat it, guys.
I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, working from home, I've done that, and it's takes somebody with discipline because there's a plus and a minus to it. Like hey, yeah, I get to work from home, but some days you want to just like not work and be at home.
Yeah, but I can also look out my back door and have a reminder where I would end up if I fucked up. So
Yeah.
We live right across from the the courthouse.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you
yeah,
go.
so I'm good. I'll just sit here and I will do my meetings and my reports and
For sure.
do the things that you know people need me to do so they can stay out of jail.
She's looking at you like.
No, he gets to actually leave the house, so that's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a
No
true
doubt.
guy,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
Yeah.
she can't wait to leave the house, and I can't wait to get home.
yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I
That's the
mean?
way it is. Yep.
So when he's here, he doesn't want to leave, but when he is here, I want to leave. So
Yeah.
there you go.
But I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, man.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. If you guys know anybody that wants to come on and share, let us know. We got,
Absolutely.
I think, the beginning of March. I got March that needs
Build
some.
up.
Yeah, it needs build up.
Yeah, and shout out to Stacey Owens because she's the
Yeah,
one who asked me. She
I
just
know.
randomly asked me during staffing one time. Hey, you want to share? I haven't done it in a long time because
She's my
it's an
A1. I
excuse,
say it
but
all the
this is
time.
I get a little busy sometimes, and I'm glad
Yeah.
I was able to. My wife's like, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, "Dude, I've did this 1,000 times. I got to talk to people at my work, but there's always
You did
a little
amazing.
bit of nervousness."
You
Yeah.
did amazing. You had your family, watching you and leaving comments. You did
My
awesome.
son beating on the door, "Daddy, open
That's
up!"
okay. He could have come in and said hi. We would have been okay with it. We'd have been okay with it.
He
But
probably
we
just wants to.
appreciate you. Thank you for sharing. And once again, amazing story. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
You're
and go
welcome.
Steelers.
Oh man, look, bro, I liked you till you just said that. Oh, I'm a
That's
Browns
all. Like it
fan.
comes on at 8:15. I'm like, man, I gotta get off the
We gotta
phone.
hurry this shit
All
up.
right.
One last question. I
All
gotta go.
right. Thanks, Shadow,
Yeah.
everyone. Thanks,
All right. Yeah.
Shadow.
I
And
appreciate you guys.
yeah, you too. Don't forget to join us Wednesday with Amanda Elizabeth. She's going to be sharing her story Wednesday from 7 to 8:30. And our YouTube page. Everybody, I've been getting questions about, like, hey, how do we go watch these after they're done? We have a YouTube page. Everything's uploaded to our podcast on YouTube, so you guys can go watch that too. Jay said, "Oh no, he didn't."
Yeah, I don't get a whole
But you can go watch it on all the episodes on YouTube if you guys want to. I know they're deleted on Facebook after like 30 days. So don't try to watch them on Facebook, guys. I'm telling you, YouTube. I shared the link. It's at the top of the page. It's there. You guys can go watch any episode you want. I will be uploading it to the podcast here as soon as we're done. So join us Wednesday with Amanda Elizabeth, and we will see everybody Wednesday.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Appreciate you guys. See you. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
thank
Appreciate
you.
you, man.
Yep.
And we are done. That's a wrap. Oh, nope. We are not done, guys. I'm so sorry.
Just joking.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Also, go check out the merch store. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.